Good evening and welcome to our live Magpie Circle show. And we're going to make it a special fans forum tonight. We want as many thoughts and views from you live and on air. I've already got a whole stack load from Facebook and our other social media channels this afternoon. So as long as it's printable and not got too many swear words in, we will be reading them all out and discussing them, myself and Chloe Page tonight. We have a special guest halfway through the programme. Nathan Salt will be joining us from Wrexham's podcast, RobRyanRed. I think it's that order. It might be the other way around, but he'll be giving us the review from last night's big match. Played 3, won 1, drawn 2, lost none, unbeaten. Decent start. So let's get your thoughts and views. Also, tonight we will be drawing the winner of this Kel Roberts match worn shirt. There it is, from pre-season last year. And before anyone says anything, the lucky winner, yes, the badges are hanging off. That's a sign it's been through the wash a few times and that you did actually wear it. So no complaining. We'll be doing that draw 2 minutes before the end of the show, just to make sure you listen. And when we draw the winner out, if they can then contact us on social media channels, Kel has very kindly agreed to sign the shirt and dedicate it to a person of your choice, be it yourself, a relative, a friend, loved one, or whatever. Okay. Chloe, 3 generations of the Page and Scanlons last night in the crowd at Wrexham. Doesn't happen very often, does it? What did you reckon to it all?
Yeah, it was very strange for my dad to be there. So he comes and watches as a kind of a lot of home games, what he can get to, what he can get off work. But the last one he went to was a Leyton Orient game, so you could kind of tell how long ago that was. But it was nice. We had a drive up, went for a meal with some of our friends and his dad. And then, yeah, sat and enjoyed the game. But it wasn't too bad of a journey, really, a couple of hours. But after I didn't get back until about 9 a.m. from Leeds. So I think I was shattered by the time I got up there. But I wasn't going to miss this one. It was a big game. But yeah, it was really nice to be there with both my dad and my granddad.
Yeah, it's noticeable whenever we play a team that we've never played there, or we haven't played there for a long time, how many familiar old faces we see. And certainly that was the case last night. I think the last time I was there was 40 years ago, 1980, Drew, and we got promoted into the top flight under Jimmy Cyril and Howard Wilkinson. So yeah, 40 years the last time I was there. I mean, that is a long time ago, I have to say. But there were a lot of old faces, familiar faces in the crowd. So yeah, let's straight before. In fact, no, what I want to do. Because the Magpies flock is very important and we all stick together. Sadly, one of our brethren passed away fairly recently, and it's their funeral tomorrow. I'm talking about Kirk Ward. Kirk, who I know is known to very many of you, and Los Clough has given me the funeral details, which are actually tomorrow. What I hadn't realised was Kirk's connections with my old manor, Sneinton. His funeral starts from Highcliffe Road and Sneinton tomorrow. 12:45 that heads off and goes down via Notts County to St Stephen's Church, where there will be a service at 1:15. And Loz has mentioned that anyone is welcome to wear their Notts County shirts to give it a proper Magpie send off to a true Magpie supporter. No Highcliffe Road, very well, top of Sneinton Dale, my old school, Greenwood Dale. I've always maintained that Sneinton, Colton, Bakersfield, Gedling. The east side of the city has the highest percentage of just about anywhere in the city of Notts County fans. So if we can all perhaps just pause to remember Kirk tomorrow, and for those of you who are going along to the service, St Stephen's Church in Snentondale, the full details you'll be able to find on the various Facebook pages, but rest in peace, Kirk Ward. Okay, we have lots and lots of observations. I want to kick off first because obviously it's taken him a little time to write it. So Chris Buckley dropped a line on some of our social media channels earlier when I said, "What are your thoughts? Played 3. What's the view so far?" So Chris writes, "Notts are playing some good football. It's very early into the season, but I can see the strides taken to improve compared to last season. Ian is also showing promising signs, and I like how he's unafraid to make early changes. These decisions are usually spot on too, so it does show a large understanding towards changing outcomes. Notts, in my opinion, have missed this from a manager for some time. I feel confident that some of the mistakes we are seeing will be ironed out over time, such as the often high passes that DKE will never be able to control. Attacking wise, with confidence, Notts should become more lethal on goal, but it's defensively where some further strides are needed." Here's another long one from Lee Atkins. We'll read Lee's out as well. "We're keeping the ball well and have been quite dominant in the game so far, apart from Wrexham, where we defended brilliantly. My concerns, though, are that we mess around with it too much at the back. We get into some great positions going forward out wide where we get the ball, but instead of getting the ball into the box, we go backwards. On some occasions, to have passed back to midfield, you have then passed to the defender, so you go back to the keeper. All this from a great position. Centre mid worries me a little. We need someone to sit there, stop play, kick people, someone tough. Also think we need to change the system when it's not working, like against Torquay. Yes, we were by far the better team, but could not break them down and kept trying the same things with the same system. Shake it up a bit to confuse the opposition. We also seemed a little scared to shoot. Try being selfish a few times. You won't score unless you shoot." So there's two that quite a few people have taken a bit of time to send us in some observations. Chloe, 3 games down. What's your thoughts on it all so far, these first 3 games?
Yeah, so I think if we go back to the first game, Barnet, it's probably a game we should have been winning. Nobody expected the 5-0, but realistically, we had to sit back, look at the result, look at the performance, and think we haven't played someone maybe kind of on more of our level. As such, if you're looking back at last season, look at kind of the transfers they've made over the summer and kind of the way their club are going about kind of their season and last season. I've looked at the fixture list, and for me, the only 2 games in the first 10 that I thought we might have a little bit of a problem with would have been Torquay and Wrexham. I think I would have liked 4 points out of the 2, but I kind of thought that was less likely after I saw the result against Torquay. It was a little bit late when I did see the result, but I got there eventually. From all accounts, what I've kind of got from fans' opinions and my family's opinion that went down to Torquay was it was more we're kind of afraid to shoot a little bit, but this kind of perfect pass again, which is kind of a point I made about the Barnet game, and I think we're trying to play like a really professional game of football. But I can't comment too much on Torquay because I didn't see it myself. And then last night, I thought it was a battling performance from defence, especially. And the second half, I thought they defended really well, which is kind of mirrors what happened there last season. I think at the start of the game, or even before the game, most people would have took a draw. And it's always nice to score. It's great for Wootton to keep scoring. I'd love him to get 20 goals this season. But it's always disappointing when you score first. People have a higher expectation of how you should finish the game when you do score first. And we scored a great time. I think it was kind of against the run of play a little bit. We had a couple of patches in the first half that I thought we looked good and we looked on top. But it was always going to be a difficult place to go. They made some good signings. And Mullen, you can kind of tell why they've spent the money on him. I know a lot of people were saying he's kind of not worth the money, but kind of his movement off the ball was top quality and hard to defend against. But I thought we were best in the game defensively. I thought the three at the back were very good. But I kind of agree with, I think, one of the comments that you did read out, that it might get us into trouble a little bit playing out from the back. But from a defensive perspective, I couldn't have asked for a lot more. I don't think the Slocum really had a save to make. I think you could argue that maybe it was his fault for the goal, but it's one of them ones. But other than that, defended well, tended to stop a lot of the crosses, but a little bit disappointing that we couldn't kind of get some more attacks going in the second half. We were a little bit flat, kind of passed it around midfield, didn't really get forward much second half. I thought it maybe did need a change at half time, which we were speaking about, that Ian likes to kind of mix it up. I'm not sure it was kind of Roberts' game. It needed a bit of a battle out there, and every time we got to the ball to him, it was difficult to kind of play against. But I must admit that I thought Mitchell played really well first half. I kind of understand why he took him off. Not anything against him, but he was never going to take Wootton off, and he did want to mix it up. But I was quite impressed with the first time that I've properly seen him. So I think he'll be a good player to watch this season. But overall, more than happy with the point after everything.
Okay, let's just turn to lots and lots of comments coming in on our message boards. Lee Atkins says, like the yellow shirt, Paul. Yeah, now the reason I mention this, there is a reason. Yeah, so I think some of you are not quite sure what it is. It was a goalkeeper shirt from last season. I think this is Sam Slocum's match worn one. And they had the yellow shirt. Was only made for the players. It wasn't sold as replica in the club shop. And the reason for picking on Lee's first observation there is hands up all those who saw Sam's navy shirt last night, because no end of people said to my son, and I clocked it as well, looked a great goalkeeping shirt. But I believe it's not available in the club shop yet. So Lynn, I know you watch, and other people at the club, it might be worthwhile seeing if you can get a little limited edition of these navy goalkeeping shirts and get them out for Christmas, because I am sure they would go down a storm. Now, I'm not particularly fashion conscious, although I like me replica or match worn shirts. Chloe, give us a fashion lowdown of Sam's navy shirt last night. Do you like that one or not?
Yeah, I did. I think a lot of people picked up on that. But yeah, I definitely did, and it was one of them. I think the other two are kind of a little bit controversial, as goalkeeper kits tend to be with the.
I like them as well.
Yeah, yeah, me too. But I think with the navy one, like you say, I assumed they'd sell very well because it isn't controversial. I know a lot of people like that in a goalkeeper shirt, but it is. I really liked it. So maybe if they can maybe have a word and we'll see what they can do. But no, definitely liked it.
Yeah, get on to Mr. Puma and see what can be sorted out between now and an order for Christmas. Be a good Christmas present for a lot of people, that one would be. Okay, let's go down. Lee Atkins is going to miss the draw, so if you get pulled out, Lee, you won't know. He's got to go to his five-a-side before the end of the show. Never mind. Lee also says, R.I.P. Kirk, so sad. Paul Hawksworth, great performance last night at Wrexham. I thought Cameron and Taylor were excellent. Taylor ? Says Lee. Chris Gosling, only disappointment in first three games was Saturday against Torquay. One pass too many in the final third. Definitely given us a platform to build from, with hopefully a run of easier games. Bob H, what is the advantage of playing from the back? I lost count of the times we lost the ball before we even got to the halfway line when we played it out. NCFC Pie, evening all. Good first three games. Probably should have 7 points, not 5 after Torquay, but overall very happy. Missing Doyle in the middle, but sure Francis will settle more into the role. Dale Pike, sorry Paul, but for me the performances have been good. Sam Slocum is a worry for me though. That's 2 games in a row he's made a mistake and cost us the points. Chris B, the Slocum scapegoating has started already. His error for the goal was only minor, and for me, I'd criticise JOB more for not closing down the player who played the ball in. Mfo, saw you at the game yesterday. You were sitting 3 rows in front of me, didn't want to bother you. No worries. Lee Atkins says, Chris, I've no worries about Sam. I do rate him, and he's been very good for us since his arrival. Yeah, it was interesting with God, Sam. I've got to say, I thought he did well, last night, because clearly there was an aerial bombardment coming in from Bentosa with the long throws. And I thought Sam came out and got, punches on and those sorts of things. So I thought he did well. But one thing, because, I'm a bit devious at these sorts of things. We obviously all saw towels, didn't we? And obviously, this is what Wimbledon did 30 years ago, and Stoke with Rory Delap about 10 years ago. And the rules change as to whether it's permissible or not. And the Premier League, by and large, kicked it into touch. Clearly, Wrexham have read their National League rule book, if one exists, and worked out you can have towels. But of course, what they did, if you noticed, they only had the towels at the end at which Wrexham were attacking. Did you notice this, Chloe? And right, okay. So so we switched ends, and it was the second half before we really got a long throw at the side we were, if you remember. And there was no towel for our man. I think it was who was doing the long throw? Was it Joel Taylor? I'm not sure.
Yeah, Taylor took most of them.
So there was no towel for him. Over the other side, I thought, because they'd switched the towels to the other end that Wrexham were attacking. So there was a towel on both sides of the pitch at the end at which Wrexham were attacking. So here's what I would have done. Start the second half. I would have had a word with my fullback or my centre half, and I said, right, go and get that towel, right? Get them both. Put them in Sam Slocum's goal mouth, right? Sam guards them towels with his life, right? Okay, so A, they haven't got any. Right. B, when we finally get a long throw, I get Sam Slocum to give it to one of our defenders to walk all the way to the other end of the pitch, wipe the ball, take the long throw. Cue mass indignation from all the Wrexham fans and all the rest of it. But at which point the ref would have to make a decision about whether he was continuing to allow the towels to be used or not. Because clearly you can't, you either got it for everyone or you've got it for no one. So there you go. Devious that I am, I notice these little things. Lee Atkins says, Chris, I've no worries about Slocum. I rate him. He's been good for us. Charfitab, Robert seems to just be getting in the way because he doesn't know where he's playing, but hopefully it doesn't take him too long to adapt. Gordon Grant says our crowd against Torquay on Saturday of 7,000, very good. Only one higher in Division 2, that was Swindon, with 8,000. Richard Hawksworth, solid start. Looking at the next 7 games, we should be looking to win a minimum 5 if we're serious about promotion. Similar point to Stell's in the pre-season review. Yeah, we'll come on to Stell's point in a minute about looking at a block of 10 games. Lee Atkins, AH on the long throws last night, Paul. Why is it okay to take and waste time when he was taking the throw in? Surely that's time wasting. Yeah, I mean, there will be a rule book that rest assured Wrexham will have studied about towels and long throws. It will probably get changed during the season. NCFC Pie, disappointed DK didn't pick up the towel and then pull off a short throw. Yeah. Mfol, Taylor looks good going forward, not great on the ball. He literally has no right foot. I mean, it's one of my thoughts. Left-footed players always look supremely skillful, always. But by and large, they tend to be 1 foot dominant. Let's be honest, Messi ain't got much of a right foot, has he? But it ain't exactly held him back down the years. Chloe, I think the consensus will kind of be 3 games, not too bad. 7 would have been better to have beaten a 10-man Torquay. We now have a series of games, and this is where people start getting complacent. We now have a run of games against teams against whom we would be looking to win, to be serious championship / playoff title contenders. This was a point Mark Stallard made, and Mark said, if you're being really ambitious, you're looking at 8 wins out of 10. Now, Chesterfield have got 3 out of 3 against, by and large, teams you would not expect to be in the top end of the table. Dagenham, one of my tips, 3 out of 3. Paul McCallum's banged a few in for them. And Boreham Wood, despite the sale of Chimanga, are also 3 out of 3. We have to be careful, don't we? But a sequence of games now against opposition, you think, there's a chance to rack up a few points here, and the start then becomes universally accepted as a strong one.
Yeah, absolutely. We was having a conversation on the way home. If we want to be serious about going up or getting that second or third spot, which I think is vitally important, that we kind of, if we really want to go up, get that second or third, get the home dry, miss the home tie, miss out the quarter-final game. I think it's massive. We've got to be beating these kind of teams. But I kind of look at the positive of last night. Wrexham haven't gained any ground on us. If we kind of beat the teams that are kind of maybe to a lower standard, or I don't know how you want to phrase it, but the teams that we should be beating in the grand scheme of things, and then kind of taking points off the teams above us, you're not going to go far wrong. It was away. It was a well-earned point in the end. And like I say, they've got no ground on us anymore. And if we beat them at home, we've kind of got 3 points off them already. So it's always better than a loss. But yeah, absolutely. We look at the next, I think there's about 7 or 8 games, and you're looking at it and you think you should be fancying us home and away to most of them. But then I look at the next 10 after that and was looking at it in the car on the way home. And then it's going to be a really tough few weeks, kind of over the start of the winter period. And I think you've got to get the ball rolling in the next few games, because if you don't, and we have quite a few slip-ups or go for a bad patch, it's going to be difficult to get out of, because we're going to be playing difficult teams. But all in all, we haven't lost one yet, which is always a positive. And we'll see how long the teams that that have got all 3 games under their belt with the wins, see how they go. I haven't, to be honest, studied everyone's fixtures. I've just kind of concentrated on ours at the minute. But I would be expected, especially on Saturday, a win. I would have liked, again, 4 points out of them 2 games, but in the grand scheme of things, we can kind of get those points back with the games that we've got coming up, as long as we don't kind of slip up against them, especially the home games. Then I don't think we'll go far wrong, and then have a good run into Christmas and see how we go from there.
I think one of the big talking points in the opening 3 games has been the way Notts pass out from the keeper to players inside their own box. And then, as Kevin Nicholson on our show last week, former Notts player, former Torquay manager, now head of coaching at Exeter City, said that if he was managing a team against Notts, high press, he said, and he would not be surprised if a lot of teams, certainly the better teams in the division, put a high press. It's almost like a Premier League style, isn't it? We tap the ball 5 yards left and right. They have their players on the edge of the box, rush. Torquay certainly did that, I thought, very effectively, while it was 11v11 on Saturday. And I think this is quite a big debating point. Mr. Neil A. Joe says that Notts have to work on the high press in training to aim to stop opponents having so many chances. I know Wrexham are different to a lot of teams in the National League, but teams will see the weakness. I think it's interesting, because I think if you're talking to Ian about the way Notts are going to play, this is an integral part of how Notts will play this season. And I think the success of this and how Notts can execute it will determine whether we're getting 95 points or 75 points. Clearly, at the minute, this approach is still in its relative infancy, and there are clearly going to be dodgy moments, because if you give the ball away in your final third, it don't look great. Clearly, Ian's view is that sucking players onto us means, and I noticed last night with Cairo Mitchell and with Kyle, you then hit a more direct ball into those two, get it to stick, and they've got a bit more time and space. I think it's going to be a frequency, and I think there's going to be more nervous moments of this, more nervous moments, and I think that it is something that Notts are going to try to progress, develop, and if they can get it working properly, we will have a very successful season. If it's something that other clubs are able to negate, then I think it's going to be a bit more challenging. As Chris B says, thought Burchnall gave the perfect answer about Torquay's high press, pointed out that the high press was the reason for the red card, so it didn't actually work. Yes and no, Chris. I thought for 20 minutes it was pretty miraculous that we weren't 1 or 2 down, to be honest. But as you know, I judge everything by results. Everything by results. Performances are not particularly important to me. Points are at the end of the day. It was interesting for those of you who heard Don Masson's comment at half time, where Don came from an era where the ball was played up, brought down, fed out wide, and put into a box. To each their own. Notts are clearly going to play this way week in and week out. So as fans, we're going to need to get used to it, because I don't see this being changed. This is going to be part and parcel of Ian's approach to playing. What's your thoughts on it, Chloe? When there aren't too many teams, we see it all the time at Premier League. There aren't too many clubs at National League level who play it to this level.
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of go back to the point someone made about maybe it didn't work out because they got a red card. But every time someone is going to play a high press, they're not going to get sent off. And I can tell you that now. And I think a lot of people, like we've spoke about earlier, are going to look at Notts and going to go, we're going to play the high press. If they're going to play it out from the back all season long, they're going to stick. There's a lot of big forwards in this league. They'll stick. They won't move out the box if we've got the ball there. And it's kind of whether we're comfortable enough to do that to a high standard, and not kind of make these mistakes. It did make me a bit uncomfortable last night. We're kind of playing it out from the back in our own box. When they've got 2 players also in the box, it does make me a little bit nervous, and it does put pressure on the forwards, whether that's Mitchell or whether that's Wootton, to kind of make it stick and not lose it. And it did keep coming back a lot. If you get it working, then I do see where he's coming from. He wants to kind of play football, in his eyes, the proper way. But I thought Brindley played well, bringing the ball out from the back. The bit that a little bit disappointed me, I thought midfield didn't do anything wrong, realistically. Francis Palmer, even Jim O'Brien in that. But they didn't bring anyone else into the game, which was a little bit disappointing. When you play it out from the back, you need your midfielders to kind of come forward, get the ball, turn and go get it to your attacking players. That didn't really happen as much. So I don't think you can just talk about the defence when you talk about playing it out from the back. It needs to go a step further than that, and not just talk about that back 3 or the back 5. Don't get me wrong, they start it off, and that's what playing out of the back's all about. But you've got to then have other players come out collecting the ball from that, and then bring that forward and drive it forward. So it is a whole team game, playing it out from the back, and I think everybody needs to understand where we're going with it, and it just doesn't just have to be Slocum and the defenders in front of him. So you've got to look at it as a whole picture, I think.
Okay. I think this is a debate that we are going to have many times over in coming weeks. We get results, everyone will love it. If we don't get results, people will have a jib at it. And that is always going to be the way, regardless of philosophies, purism, whatever. Results will dictate how we view this. Right, I'm delighted to say that we have now been joined by Nathan from RobRyanRed Broadcast. There he is, he's in red. Nathan, how are you, dear boy?
Good, how you doing? How you both doing?
Yeah, we're all very good. All the Magpie Circle flock will be on their best behaviour.
I'm glad to hear it.
Our message sort of chat section, if you've got that enabled, but you'll be able to see what we're all talking about. So we have plenty of people going over there now. Great atmosphere. So what was the Wrexham takeaway from last night? First game in front of the fans, etc., etc., etc. You end up.
Yeah, no, it was. I think we were really impressed. I mean, I was really impressed with Notts. I thought they defended brilliantly, and I think a lot of Wrexham fans felt we'd played really well. I don't know what you made of it, but I thought we came away thinking we're not going to play Notts County defences every single week, and so we came away thinking, yeah, we would have liked to have won the game, but we'll win a lot of matches if we play like that. The long throw won't be defended as effectively. I thought Rawlinson and Cameron, I thought they were superb. I was listening to the show before. I thought Slocum, I think he's a really, really good goalkeeper at this level. I think Lainton and Slocum, I think you can't go really too far wrong. I told you about this on the preview show. Something about Jim O'Brien, we always lose the midfield battle whenever he's there. I know Chloe was saying then that the midfield wasn't great. I don't think either side's midfield was particularly good. That was one of our main frustrations, is that we couldn't really seem to get the ball from, unless it was in his hands, we couldn't really get the ball from, say, Ben Tozer at the back effectively through to Paul Mullin, because I thought he looked good last night again, against a tough defence. But I mean, he'll have far easier feeds than Rawlinson, Cameron, and I forget the other guy in your back three, but very, very effective. And so as much as we're in a similar situation to you, whereas we really wanted to come away with 7, but I think we look at it and go, well, we really had Notts County, especially in the first half, on the ropes. And I think that was fair. The goal was a brilliant goal by Wootton, an unbelievable header actually. Kind of bullied our young centre half Max Cleworth, but I think that was, you could argue that was against the run of play. We looked really good, and so we came away thinking, yeah, Notts are going to be right up there with us. So we're quite happy with that.
That's very magnanimous, and it's interesting your take on some of our players. Our goalkeeper, who some people will have a dig at, and the opposition said actually was really impressed with him. I don't know how much you managed to listen to the show. Did you hear a bit of our debate about the long throw?
I did. I mean, to be honest, it's been heavily debated. It's been heavily debated on our forums, in terms of, I'm not sure how effective it has been for Tozer in his career. Look, for me, it's very effective, but we just don't have the players. You look at the height of our players, we were getting bullied by Notts' defenders. Rawlinson, and we're just eating up. Paul Mullin is not a striker designed to score lots of headers from long throws. I know he scored a header where Slocum came out, but that's a very different type of goal. And so for me, I'm sure that what we're looking for, ideally, what I was looking for last night, was Notts to maybe not do a good job of clearing it. And as you could see, we had midfielders lined up on the edge of the box. We've always got this knack of having midfielders that want to score from outside the area. And time again, we had James Jones and Luke Young just sat there waiting for the knockdown that never came. And so I think you look ahead to the games we've got, Southend at the weekend and Woking after that. Our hope, I think, is that Ben Tozer it must be incredibly frustrating, especially in front of the Notts fans that were up there, to see Ben Tozer sort of drying it with a towel, like he's sort of doing the washing up, and just kind of like taking his sweet time. And it didn't really come to anything. But, I'd rather have that in our ranks. And you had a sort of long throw specialist yourself. I just think it causes a bit of chaos. And at this level, it's worth having in your armory, but it didn't really work last night.
What's your take, Nathan, Wrexham? You saw Notts under Ian Burchnall are going to have a very purist approach. And by purist, I mean, we see it in the Premier League all the time, but the goalkeeper will knock it 5 yards to either left or right with 2 players deep inside our own box, almost on a byline, and then look to play the ball out. Yeah. And clearly, when it works, it's brilliant, and it looks great in the Premier League. Ian, I think, has very much nailed his colours to the mast. That is the way that he wants to play. Many of our fans love it. Some will say some will say, "Oh, blimey, gives me kittens," and they'd have a heart attack. What was your take on the way Notts play that style? Because you won't come across it too many times, if at all, in this division.
Definitely not. This is year 14 for Wrexham. We don't come across many teams who actually want to play football, and I can understand why. You don't get many. You go to, with all due respect, a Maidenhead in November, and the pitch isn't great. By all means, go to Notts County. You'll get a nice pitch. Wrexham, you'll get a nice pitch. There'll be other ones, but by and large, the division isn't designed for the greatest footballers. But that being said, like I say, I'm not just coming on and sort of trying to big up Notts, but I thought there was a lot of players last night. I was especially surprised, given our chat, Paul, about no Cal Roberts, no Ruben Rodriguez. We were all rubbing our hands together at the Wrexham, thinking, great, 3 games in, they're not putting out their strongest team. And I know the fast turnaround, but we thought Mitchell, don't really know anything about him, and is it Kelly Evans again, another that we didn't know. And then next minute they're cutting the ball back and Kelly Evans has fired over. And I thought, okay, maybe they've actually got a bit more depth and we need to wake up. But no, I think it's admirable. No, if you've got the players to do it, you should do it, because if you can have the confidence, I've seen it time and time again at this level, if you can have the confidence to play it out, you're comfortable enough in possession, you will beat a lot of teams. You'll be able to just knock it around players that haven't got the speed to keep up. What you've got wide players. Your system looked like it was designed for the wide players. So fullbacks and your wingers should thrive in Ian's system. It wasn't necessarily about just having an O'Brien or Palmer or whoever it was in the midfield sort of pulling the strings. It wasn't really about that. It was kind of get it wide, the amount of time to get it wide and then look for Wootton in the middle. That's what it seemed like. And it was working against teams that play back threes. It will work because wing backs will push up and it will leave space for somebody like a Mitchell to get in behind, or a Rodriguez, or a Cal Roberts, who, even though those two didn't get much off the bench, they're big players. We've already spoke about
that. Give us your view. Give us a collective Wrexham fans' view on, the whole Hollywood takeover. That kind of, when you first hear about it, think this can't really be happening. Although kind of you want to believe it. It happened to us at Notts 12 years ago, fake shakes and all the rest of it, and people wanted to believe. The takeover happened, but there was no money. Now, clearly, that is not the case with what you guys are doing. You've had a lot of very serious players in and around the English game being brought in. You seem to be doing it in a very proper, professional, measured way. What's your personal take on everything that's happened to Wrexham in the last 3-4 months of this takeover?
I mean, it's totally bizarre, but brilliant at the same time. It's exactly what the club's been crying out for. Ultimately, we are stuck at this level. We've tried every possible way. We've tried every different manager, rookie manager from the dressing room, manager from the National League North or South. We've tried Gary Mills, someone who's gone up with York and done brilliantly at Gateshead. We've tried all these different managers and hundreds of players in the process. I'd be here all night if I was rattling off all the players I've seen, good and bad. We've tried everything. And so ultimately we can only go so far under fan ownership. Every penny is costly.
Yes.
And so you say, not say go out and spend 10,000 or 15,000, which, okay, Wrexham now, that's not very much. But to us, that we don't pay for players under fans. It's too expensive for us to buy. So ultimately we're always just hoping we land on, we went for the good defense, just try and win a game 1-0, and that would be great under Dean Keats. And we nearly did it. We nearly made the playoffs. We've got to the final against Newport 2013. We had 98 points in 2011-12, lost out to Jamie Vardy's Fleetwood. So we've 98 points and we came second. So and then we lost in the first round of the playoffs. So we've tried every possible avenue, and it was only going to take immense investment. The fan ownership said we're not going to sell. We're too scared that we're going to lose the club.
Yeah,
the club will go bust, and it's not worth it. Then you get news, and I'm getting a load of text saying, "Oh, there's some kind of Hollywood American investment," and we were all thinking Russell Crowe. Got links to the area, would make a lot of sense.
Yes,
and so we're thinking, oh, maybe Russell Crowe, but surely not. Russell Crowe's not going to want to buy Wrexham. And then it came out that it's Ryan Reynolds, and we all thought, now this is a spoof. This is all some elaborate plot. But you know what? They're doing things that they've held their hands up. They held their hands up on a Zoom call and said, "We don't know how to run a football club. We have absolutely no idea how to run a football club. So we'll just get people that do." Les Reed from the FA. We'll get in Phil Parkinson, Phil Parkinson as a manager of a National League team is ridiculous. And then we've gone out and made 10 signings, 9 of which have come from the Football League. So they're making very sensible decisions. And people say, well, they've pumped in 2 million. I mean, they've got that back through, TikTok in the sponsorship, Expedia, all these other different kind of deals that they've done, aviation, gin. So, what I would think, I think it would be incredibly frustrating if I wasn't a Wrexham fan. It's amazing for us, great story. But if I wasn't, I would have been outraged by the Vanarama promotional video for the season, which was all about Wrexham and then a little bit of Torquay, and that was it. I think I'd have been absolutely spitting feathers at that. But what it does give us is a huge target on our back. And I saw that last night in a way. Not that Notts needed any motivation, but they were not going to lose that game by hook or crook. Some of those defenders looked like they were going to take any punishment they could to make sure that Wrexham, and ultimately it wasn't a massive error by Sam Slocum, but you could have shut us out 1-0 and we wouldn't have had too many complaints. I know Wrexham fans, myself included, were very frustrated at the offside decision, and the screen grab of that is actually a little bit misleading, but nonetheless we just piled in on it anyway and called for VAR. But no, it's a brilliant story, and I'm biased, but I'm delighted for the fan base. We've really suffered at this level for a long time, and you just hope that the issue is, Paul and Chloe, they're massively in a rush to go up, and you've been in this league 3 years, or this is the third year. We've been in there 14 years. That this is season 2 of the documentary, the sponsorships. They need to win fast, and ultimately this league is hard as hell to get out of. You either win the league or it's a complete lottery, and I'm already quite scared by teams like Dagenham. I think you mentioned Paul McCallum earlier and people like that. They're going to be good. There's always a team that puts it together. No one would have bet on Sutton, who don't have massive resources to go up. So look at Dagenham, not necessarily Boreham Wood, but Chesterfield as well. Yourselves last night. It's not, Wrexham aren't going to walk the division by any stretch of the imagination. I think this is probably the toughest we've had it to get out in probably a decade, maybe our entire time. I mean, I can't remember it being this tough and this competitive and that many good players in the league. Last night, just both sides. I mean, it was a great game, I thought, and friends who aren't fans of Notts or Wrexham just said, what a great game, 5th division, So no, fingers crossed we do it, but I've got a feeling we'll be meeting again down the line.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I know I'm a bit of a traditionalist. I always maintain the single most important player at any football club is the manager. And I think if you get the right manager, or in our case, head coach, if you get a good manager who is also a good fit for your club, because sometimes managers can be very good at some clubs and just, you mentioned Gary Mills, good friend of mine, don't fire. He struggled badly at Notts County, Gary. If you get the right manager with the right fit, understands the DNA of the club, that to me is a 40-goal a season striker straight off the bat. I look at Chesterfield. I'm a big fan of James Rowe. If you look at his record at Gloucester, Gloucester have never done anything in football ever, and they were runaway leaders of National League South when Chesterfield took a punt, and I think Phil Parkinson, is a great manager at League One. He's a brilliant manager at League Two. He's in the National League, so I would be surprised if he doesn't get you to a certain position that, for me, I would make you favourites to win. I would say that, and it's not necessarily about having the best players, is it? It's having the best unit. It's having the best system. The most number of clean sheets. Those type of stats are the ones that tend to be that leads to the teams getting up. And I think that you will have a side that will be, I think, very functional in that respect under Parkinson.
I think as well, I've seen enough of this division, and I'm growing sick and tired of watching 5th division and spending my nights freezing in Bromley on a Tuesday. But I look at it and think injuries play such a big part at this level because managers condense their squads down to about 18. Mm-hmm. And with all due respect, you only have a few difference makers. Knock on wood, I wouldn't want anything to happen to certain players, but Torquay, look at someone ex-Wrexham like Danny Wright, or yourselves, the wingers, or Wootton, or someone like that. If we lost Paul Mullin, Jordan Davis, someone of that quality, there's absolutely no replacement. Or in normal circumstances, you can't go out and just pluck out another Paul Mullin or another Cal Roberts. You can't. They're just not available. No one's going to sell them. So it's as much about longevity at this level. That's why I wouldn't panic and I think when you look back, I don't think Torquay will. I think they could have problems this year. I think they're already showing some issues, just the hangover, and I think maybe you'll look back and think maybe you should have won that, but no one's handing you the medals in August, September. So if you've got all your players fit and Ian is still sticking to his system and it's working in February, March, then that tells me that you're going about it right. And he didn't strike me the way he speaks with such eloquence and confidence. He doesn't strike me as a man who a couple of bad defeats and he'll just rip it up and go, right, long ball to Wootton, knockdowns, feed on scraps, we'll do what we can. I think he's just going to go out in a blaze of glory. He's just going to stick to his system, and ultimately that will reap rewards. I say that now, and it hasn't got to winter yet, but it will reap rewards. And I think for Parkinson, it's less about a philosophy and more, like you say, just about being functional, just grinding out results somehow. Build a defense that is similar to yourselves, that is not going to get breached very often, and you're banking on, can we do enough creatively to feed Mullin and Hyde, and they will score goals. If they can combine for, say, 50 goals or 45 goals between them, 20 and 25, you think that's brilliant. We'll take that all day, and you chip in from your midfield. That's what I think. I think Parkinson, the way he's spoken, I asked him directly about his philosophy. His philosophy seems to be winning games more than, isn't it, for all of us? But he doesn't, he doesn't come across with a clear identity of how he wants to play. He just wants to play winning football, which for Wrexham is something we've not had really a good level for a while, for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, the last one we had who kind of played to win matches was Steve Cottrell, who got us over the line. And we've been quite fortunate not, there are people before you were born, Nathan. So Jimmy Cyril and Howard Wilkinson in his first job delivered results and got Notts into the top flight. And of course, a kind of a master at functionality, for want of a better phrase, was Neil Warnock. We were his first Football League job. Most people do not like him, but when you are in a division that you want to get promoted from, he's probably in the top 3 of everybody's list of, we'll get him to get us out, And Parkinson has a very good record, to be fair. He has a very good record. Chloe, any questions or thoughts for Nathan?
Yeah, I really completely get where you're coming from, for everything that you've said. I spoke to a couple of Wrexham fans on the way out, and I think they were a little bit unfair, personally, from a Wrexham point of view. Nothing to do with us. We was talking about Mullin, and they were kind of saying, yeah, he's a good player, but he needs to be taking more chances. And I think you need to look at him as a player as a whole. I think he's a very clever player, and the runs he was making off the ball weren't getting picked up on. And I think if you get them working with him, he's just going to be another level this season. You can't be asking him to score from every shot he's going to have. I mean, it's ridiculous, but you can see why you've spent the money on him. You want people like that to be in and around the box the whole time. And he's going to be a player this season. I've seen him one game, and that's enough to kind of sell me on him. And then the whole thing with, obviously, we talk about the National League and kind of the promotion video they put out. And I think the first couple of seasons we were down in this league, we kind of had that target on our backs. Everyone came to Notts County. We've got a big stadium. I don't think we kind of understood how privileged we were to have it, just because it's always been there. And then we kind of dropped down to this league, and we were like, we have got something special here. And a lot of teams, especially COVID, with no fans being down there, that gave them a huge advantage. The crowd isn't there. We do travel well. I like to think home and away, which is always a huge advantage. But to come, and a lot of teams playing with us behind closed doors in this massive stadium favoured them. But then this season, obviously, you've got the likes of Grimsby and Southend coming down, as well as all these players being brought in from Football League clubs that you would never imagine would be in the National League. It is a great kind of selling point for the league. These games that they keep putting on TV, is showing the quality that the National League's got. And I think a lot of fans of clubs in higher divisions don't kind of see the National League as a conference still. And I think it's a whole lot more than that now. And it's a major selling point, keep putting games on TV like this. But it is frustrating as a Notts fan. We spoke about it. In a way, it helps us because, like you said, we haven't got that target on our back. But I spoke to a couple of people that didn't go up to the game but watched it on TV, and it's like they've never got anything good to say about us anymore, which is frustrating. We were speaking, I was watching the goals highlights from Barnet. Obviously, we won 5-0, great. And there was kind of no mention of us. And one of the 4 pundits, only one of them had us in top 7. And I'm kind of like, that's frustrating to me. It's kind of like, I don't really get why. But at the same time, it's not people looking at us constantly. So as frustrating as it is, it's maybe a bit of an advantage. But yeah, I think you'll definitely be up there next season. Kind of, if you bring Mullin more into it, he's definitely the smart player, the forward ones he was making, but you're definitely going to be up there. But yeah, I am, and I'm glad to see some positive feedback about Jim O'Brien. I can't praise the guy enough. I love it.
No, I mean, on Mullin, I think we could have Cristiano Ronaldo, Kylian Mbappe, and Lionel Messi, and Wrexham fans would still say they're not good enough. they just don't understand. They're not good enough. I was getting texts. I didn't go down to EC in the end, and I got text saying, Paul Mullin just looks so unfit. He's not good enough, etc., etc. I thought, well, I'll get a look at him in the Notts game, and we'll see what he looks like. And I thought, you know what, some Wrexham fans will never change, but it's part of the charm for us now. And I wouldn't set Wrexham fans off on TV. We've got this belief that BT absolutely hate us. They never pick us to go up, and clearly every team thinks that these big teams. BT couldn't stop talking last night about how great Chesterfield are and how Chesterfield will probably win the league. And good for them. They've beaten Wealdstone and 2 other teams that won't be anywhere near. Good for them. We'll see them at the racecourse, and you'll see them in Notts as well, and see how good they are. But no, Mullin's a brilliant striker, and I think when I spoke to Paul last time, he said it's going to be one hell of a race for the Golden Boot. I think I wasn't. I'll be honest, I wasn't really having sort of Carl Wootton in that conversation, but based on last night, and they actually showed a good clip of him and Ian Burchnall on the training ground, and Ian saying, I want to work with you on your movement, and we can really improve you and improve your goal tally. And I thought he looked really good last night. Watching him last season, I wasn't blown away, I'll admit, by Wootton. I didn't think he was anything super special. You get a lot of strikers at this level, people like Shamanga that people rave about and love. But if he's in a system that works, and he's got the service that he will have out wide, I think he's got a real shot. Mullin, you'd expect to get 20, 25 goals. Jake Hyde, I think, will be up there as well if you can get good service at Wrexham. But it's, for me, I wouldn't mind if I was in your position. I would happily not have a target on my back. Just go about your business and win games, and it will work itself out. Eventually, you'll be up there, and happy days if you are. And for us, anything but a win every single week is going to cause a meltdown. Every time we lose a game, there will be a massive inquest, and that's just not healthy every week. Because every team we lose to, we'll look at and go, this is ridiculous. We're losing. Look at the size of our stadium. Look how big a club we are, which is true. We're a huge club as a Notts, but ultimately you are where you are. Was it Paul Cox who told you that you need to realise you're a National League club? And until you realise that, you've got no chance of going back up. So if you still live in we're a massive Football League club, even if you refer to yourself as an ex-Football League club, it means nothing. The size of the fan base, we come, and it might be 50 Bromley fans come, or Maidenhead, or Yeovil, or whoever comes. It doesn't mean anything as long as you have to match up team for team, player for player, and that's not what we've done in years gone by, and that's why we've fallen short. So I think for you, not having a target on your back could be an absolute masterstroke, really. And all this attention going on Wrexham could be perfect for you to focus on your system, play your games, win matches, and suddenly it'll be the new year, and I'll be looking at this, and you'll be saying, wow, we're top by 30 points, or we're second, and it's happy days, and Chesterfield are nowhere near. So yeah,
We've had some nice comments. Dave Worley says, lovely to have the views from the Wrexham camp, just how football should be, mutual respect.
Yeah, thanks, Dave.
NCFC Pie says, great to hear Nathan's thoughts and an honest and fair view from a Wrexham point of view. Good luck for the rest of the season and look forward to the game at Meadow Lane. We'll have the towels ready.
Yeah.
Only at one
Lots
end.
of towels.
Yeah,
one end.
won't better find any. Tozer won't better find any when you're in our final third. All right. You raise a very good point, and a lot of the things that you've said there about Wrexham are exactly what we as Notts have had to do since being relegated out of the Football League 2 years ago. Absolutely the same. And the one thing that I think still concerns me, and you touched on it there, Nathan, and it's a sense of entitlement. But because we're a big club, big stadium, big fan base, there's a sense of entitlement that we should, so we've now got a run of games, Aldershot, Weymouth, a few others. And it's kind of like we're all guilty. Well, we should win about 6 out of the next 7, and that'll give us this and that. And ultimately, it's the team that maintains consistency against good sides and bad sides, Sutton, Barrow, Harrogate, who are the ones that get out. And I think it is very, very dangerous when, as you've said, this kind of like, we're a big club, we should be doing this, creeps in. Historically, when Notts overachieved, we were always the small fish in the big pond, Premier League, Championship. And clever managers, Neil Warnock, Sam Allardyce, Howard Wilkinson, would kind of play on that to those strengths. We're the little club against the big club. And I'm not sure it has sat very well with us. And from what you're saying, nor has it with Wrexham in the National League. I don't think it's sat comfortably with us. Players have to learn to cope with being expected to win every single week. There's a mental resilience. There's a huge pressure on the manager, the head coach, because they are expected to win a minimum of 6 out of every 10 games. And we've all seen, you work in the media industry as well, Nathan. We've all seen what pressure can do to people, and people can crumble under those levels. And you see the wily fox managers, like a Daryl McMahon at Dagenham, goes under the radar, and that's why this National League is so unrelenting and so difficult. And clearly, with the resources that Notts have had, we shouldn't even be in this division now. We lost in a playoff final to Harrogate, and we lost to Torquay last season. We this season are paying the price for not getting out in the previous 2 seasons, because, as you mentioned, this is a really, really tough division to get out of. Numerically, it's the hardest division of any professional level in English football, because there's only one automatic. But a lot of the bigger clubs have kind of got their acts together this year, haven't they? And it's going to be very, very, very difficult. And lots of people keep saying to me, it's vitally important when we play a Wrexham, we play a Torquay and all of that. It is, but it's no less important than when we play Aldershot, Wealdstone, because you have to knock them teams over. And I know that Chesterfield are probably one of the most unpopular teams in the division, given furlough and all the rest of it. But what they have done in 3 games against teams they should have beat, they've beaten all 3. Right now, let's just see how others. Stockport lost at home, didn't they? To Dagenham, got battered. Torquay lost at home. Was it to Altrincham? I think those results are every bit as important, because to get 90 odd points, I can't believe you got 98, didn't go, oh crikey, that must have been a hangover. But that tells you need to win an awful lot of games, don't you? You can't lose too many to stand an earthly chance of getting promoted automatically.
No, and at this level, you see the grounds you go to. If the supporters get nervous, the players, there's not enough separation. But the players can feel the nervousness.
Yes.
And I find that every defeat brings a massive inquest when you're one of these big teams,
Yeah.
because you'll lose to even a draw sometimes. But, you draw, like you've drawn to Torquay, which last season would have been a very good result. And now people are scratching their heads over, oh, have we dropped 2 points there? Is that going to cost us? I mean, I saw some people last night saying, because of the offside decision, the rule out, people were saying, what if Notts County, edges out by 2 points? Or, I mean, it's totally ridiculous. I mean, it totally is ridiculous. And yeah, I'm laughing about it now. But we have debates on our podcast, and the thing with the Wrexham is, if they go up, brilliant, it's worked. The plan has worked, but there's no guarantee. I mean, there's no guarantee. Like I say, we got 98 points and didn't go up. So until we see the kind of the ribbon and the medals around the neck, I don't think we can take anything for granted. And yeah, we were the same, thinking we can't afford to lose to Notts County. That is a statement game for us. That is sending to the rest of the division. But it's no different to if we were to play Kings Lynn or Bromley, or still counts for 3 points. And ultimately, it's just who can rack up the most of those, who can show enough consistency, which is why teams like Dagenham, Chesterfield to an extent, but Boreham Wood, all these teams that can just go about their business quietly, and all the eyes will be on Notts and Wrexham, and to an extent Torquay missed out. These kind of bigger teams with the big stadiums and big fan bases. But players, I mean, again, I think of social media as well. I think of our players on social media. A lot of them are. And I don't know how much they read and don't get to speak to them that often. But, they get absolutely hammered. I mean, they get showered in praise when it goes well. And what a great player you are. Like, you've got the freedom of Wrexham. Like, you're welcome anywhere. Go do what you want. And then the next day, it's like, get out of our club. You're not good enough. And, like, you shouldn't be playing for us. And, fans just ripping into players' abilities. I mean, so, even some of your lads, we're tearing into the good ones and the bad ones after 60, 70, 80 minutes. I think I've just seen it so often, and I look at Notts County and I'm thinking that's where we were when we didn't make it after losing to Newport, and after we didn't make it with the 98-point season. We thought, God, we're so much better than everyone else here. We need to come down a peg a bit and realize that we are where we are, and if we can't put enough wins together, we're going nowhere fast. So we're going to have to get used to it, and here we are, 14 years on.
Yeah. Nathan, thank you very much indeed. We're going to do a little draw for a Kel Roberts match worn shirt.
No worries.
Thanks
so much.
We look forward to welcome you, and we'll get you on the show when you're ahead of your visit to Meadow Lane. Which
perfect. Good luck for the rest of the season. Good luck for the rest of the season. Thanks, Chloe. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Nathan. Take care. Okay, right. Quick round. Right, make sure you're all not nodded off to sleep. Right, we'll have a quick fire, fingers on buzzers. It's like university challenge. Want to see on the message boards. We're going to ask a question or two now. First question, and I want you all to give me your answer. Okay, so Chloe can give her answer while you're sort of typing away. So, who is going to be Notts County's top goal scorer this season? Is it going to be Kel Roberts? Is it going to be Kyle Wootton? Is it going to be Ruben Rodriguez? Fingers on buzzers. Get typing away. Let's see who is. Chloe, who's your money on? Who is going to win? Who's going to be top scorer for Notts come the end of the season?
It's Wootton for me. Every day of the week, it is. I think I said it earlier on in the season. I'd like to see him get his 20 mark this season. He's been edging. I think he got 18 and then he got 19, and he started well. But collectively from Ruben and Cad, I'd like to see 25, 30. But I think Wootton will get the 20 on his own. And I also don't think that Rodriguez and Roberts are going to play every game that what Wootton, I assume, will. So yeah, I'm fancying Wootton this season.
Good answer. Right, we'll stop. Hey, it's good, this. People out there are still not fallen asleep. Here we go. We've had about 30. Mfold, Kyle Wootton, Joe Davenport, Kyle, Richard Hawksworth, Kyle Wootton, Brian Morphus, Ruben, Ben Hawksworth, Wootton, Tim Baxter, Wootton, John Pearl, Wootton, Callum Frankton Lees, Ruben, Duncan Comrie, Ruben Rodriguez, Chris B, Wootton, Dale Pikett, Kyle, Chris Gosling, Wootton, Stephen Knighton. Hang on, I can't scroll up fast enough. Wootton, Paul Hawksworth, Rodriguez, I presume. Joe Johnson, Wootton, NCFC Pike, Woots. No one has gone for Kel. Dear me, we all face the best player in the National League. Not one of you has gone for Kel to be our top scorer. For my money, I would go Wootton as well, to be honest, over the course of the season. Okay, that's number one. Right. Glad to see you all paying attention. Number two, so you'll have to answer this first in a minute, Chloe. I know we've only played 3 games. Who's been the best player for you in our first 3 games of the season? Over the course of the 3 games, who's been the star performer so far? Fingers on buzzers, off you go. Chloe.
I'd probably go Kyle Cameron. I said it at Boston. I think he's going to be our player of the season. And then last night, I think he had his best game so far. I obviously didn't watch Torquay, so I can't comment too far there. But same for all of the back 3/5 last night. I thought they defended really well. I don't think he's going to be our player of our season, but I'm always going to mention Jim O'Brien. Everything about him. Again, yesterday, he was the one that was putting the foot in and making the forward runs from midfield. He's not the full package. And it's difficult to be the full package in this league. Because if you were, you wouldn't be playing in this league. Let's be completely honest about it. But yeah, I think it might be Kyle Cameron. If we can keep a few clean sheets in there, that always helps a defender out.
Okay, so first 3 games of the season, who's been the best player for you so far? Here are our thoughts. Tim Baxter, Palmer, Dale Pikett, Cameron, Callum Frampton-Lees, Cameron, Thick 24, Palmer, Jim Airy, Palmer, Brian Morphus, Palmer, John Pearl, Paler, I think he means Palmer, Chris Gosling, Palmer, NCFC Pie, Palmer. I think the Matty Palmer Appreciation Society is out in force tonight. Joe Davenport, Palmer, Stephen Knight, Palmer, Joe Johnson, Brinley. There's a new one. There we go. That's a very just quick fire. If I can think of a few of them each week, we'll do that each week. Obviously, seems to be going down well. So now to finish the show, we are going to unveil the winner. I'm looking at my son off camera of this shirt. Okay, here it is. Kel Roberts, match worn, pre-season last year. Badge hanging off, don't complain, right? That's because he's worn it and it's been washed a few times. And clearly the washer lady didn't quite put it in on the right temperature, okay? But this, I've already had, believe it or not, people have offered me to try and fiddle the draw over £100 for this shirt alone, okay? So it's worth a few quid, but I would trust that you will be keeping it, particularly as Kel has kindly agreed to sign it. And the winner is, here we go, random, just pulled out the hat. There we go. I'll build this suspense up. AD Clark. Okay, so AD Clark, you are the winner of this shirt. If you DM us, get hold of us in our various social media formats, you must be able to. Don't ask me. I just front the show. That is yours. Get in touch with us. Let us know who you would like it dedicating to. And Kel has kindly agreed to sign on the back to whoever you would like it to be. So congratulations. We'll have more shirt competitions throughout the season. That kind of brings us to a close tonight. It's Aldershot Saturday, Chloe, and after our earlier discussions with Nathan from RobRyanRed, we're all thinking, unless we get as many as we did against Barnet, it will be a failure. Yeah?
Oh yeah, always is with Notts fans. It's one of them. You can't expect to win any game. I think, like Nathan was saying, I think some teams think they've got a God-given right to be handed 3 points against these kind of smaller teams, the teams of part-timers. You've got to beat what's in front of you, whether that's Wrexham, whether that's Stockport, whether that's Torquay, or whether that's Altrincham, Aldershot, Bromley, etc. Got to beat what's in front of you. I do fancy us personally. But it's one of them. We'll see. I'll be there this week, so be glad to get back to Meadow Lane.
You see, I think, I don't want to be controversial, I'm actually as much, if not more, interested in how we perform against Aldershot on Saturday, because that will give me more of reassurance is the wrong word, but it would show that teams coming to Meadow Lane, because clearly, unless you win a decent proportion of your home games, doesn't matter how good away from home. Doesn't matter how good away from home you are. Ask Keith Curl. calendar year, didn't lose a game, got the same because of our home performance. And don't get me wrong, I'm not for a minute saying we're not going to beat Aldershot, but I will be interested to see how we play against Aldershot and how we hopefully put them to the sword. Because Aldershot will either come and play a high press, having watched other teams, or they'll park the bus. Either way, it's up to us. The onus is always on the home team to dictate the game. And I sincerely hope, expect's a strong word, but you would want us to be putting Aldershot to the sword. And that's why I will be very interested on Saturday to see how it all goes. How it all goes. Chris B's kind of picking up on that point. He says it's important that the fans stick with the team. If it's 0-0 at half time, let's not have too much complaining. I absolutely agree, Chris. We're very early in the season. It's a twofold thing. Players need to entertain the fans. Fans need to stick with the players. Chris Gosling says, Aldershot lost 3 out of 3. I agree, Paul. This is the test of consistency. We go back to the point, I think, that Mark Stellard made in one of our pre-season shows. You know, he was looking at a block of 10 games. Clearly, Torquay and Wrexham were the 2 really difficult ones in that block of 10, but the others are all very winnable. Of course, we'd all love to win the 8. Difficult, but for us to be serious challengers and contenders, we need to be winning 5 or 6 of those 8. You know, that you know, Wrexham is a great one-off and shows that we can compete with the best teams, but we're in the business here of accumulating 80 to 90 points. That means winning a lot of matches. So I'm sure we are all going to be out in force on Saturday. It was a great away following last night. Chloe, thank you ever so much indeed for giving up your time again, as always. Always good to have you on the show. When are you back off to uni? Is it about end of November or something? You know, 4-week term between now and Christmas, is it? What are you up to?
Oh, I feel like it. I'm up there end of September, so one of my first weekends up there is Altrincham away, which has worked out quite perfectly because I worked it out the other day. It's about a 20-minute drive from where I am, so yeah, I'll be up there for that one.
But you'll be around, all being well, on Saturday, yeah?
Oh yeah, back in the ticket office on Saturday, back to Meadow Lane, the stomping ground. Finally, it seems like a while, but yeah, I'll be there on Saturday.
Very good. Thank you, everybody, for all your time and for listening to us. I'm just struggling to find one piece of paper because I have been contacted by the Notts County Foundation, and we're hoping to have Les Brad on tonight, but he's golfing. He's normally always golfing, to be fair, because Les has taken part in one of the courses that they've started. Another course. It's called Fit Magpies. It's a free 12-week project open to men and women who want to improve their health, well-being and physical activity levels. The course is proven to help adults achieve significant long-term improvement, weight loss, physical activity, diet and psychological well-being. This next group regular course starts on Tuesday, the 7th of September, 5 till 7 next week. If you're interested, and I know Les speaks very passionately about it, he lost the best part of a stone on this course. So if you're a Notts fan, you want a little bit of a kickstart to a health and to a fitness regime, meet, mingle with fellow Notts County fans, please check it out and enroll on the course if you would like to. You can sign up via the Fit Fans website. If you go into the Notts County Foundation, you will be able to see the details. The man who's responsible for running it is Chris Riley. So if you've got his email, check it out, drop him a line as well. That course will start from next Tuesday, the 7th of September. Okay, that does complete everything for tonight. Unbeaten in the first 3 games. So let's hope we make that 4 on Saturday. Aldershot, 3 o'clock. Chloe, thank you very much indeed. Thank you for taking part tonight, everyone. We'll do one of these fans forum once a month or so, and basically just it will be your show, and we'll try and come up with as many discussions talking points, debating points as we can. 73 minutes we've managed tonight, so thank you very much indeed. Look forward to catching up with you all again next week.